Hello, my love. Welcome to the virtual lounge of the Single Women's Society. I invite you to come on in. I want you to find a really cozy place to sit, put your feet up, grab your drink of choice, because I'm going to have a heart-to-heart conversation with you today. I'm going to open up a little bit more about myself, and hopefully you'll learn something based off of what I've gone through in my life and what I currently teach my clients when it comes to moving forward from an ex. But before I go into all of that, hello and welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. I am your host and dating coach, Kat Cantrell. Welcome to the Single Women's Society. So today's episode, I feel like I should have a cocktail actually sitting here next to me, because today's episode is talking about, I know I've talked about before in the past about not getting back with your ex, because that is a thing too, where women will go back to their exes. But I'm not going to talk about that today. Today, I'm talking about after you're done, like when you have broken up with your ex and you're carrying on with your life and you're living your life. How do you process that? Like, what goes through your head? Because sometimes, especially when it comes to divorces and especially when we have children involved, it can be a constant reminder. And that's kind of why I'm bringing it to your attention, because we just had Thanksgiving. And I was talking to my daughter, and it kind of brought up a lot of feelings inside of me that I'm still currently working through. And I was talking to Brian about this, and I thought, man, if this is something that I'm going through, again, I know that this is something that you're going through, and trying to coach myself. And Brian's an excellent coach too, so he'll be coaching me too. And kind of going through these experiences myself helps my clients. And I want to share that with you today. So we're just going to have like an honest conversation. There's no steps. There's no like do this 3-step process. It's basically just a mindset shift. And I want to teach that to you today. But before I go into all of that, guess what? So the month of November, we've had the most downloads ever since the beginning of the podcast, since the beginning of the show, the most downloads ever. So I know I talked about this last week, but I'm going to talk about it again this week. I cannot thank you enough, because you're listening, you're downloading, you're subscribing, you're sharing. And in fact, when I checked, was it this morning or yesterday morning? We even have a new listener in Iceland. So if this is you, girl, I see you. I see you. So thank you. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. It means so much to me. It means that you're listening, because let's face it, podcasting or this kind of format's different. There's no, you're basically just throwing it out to the masses just to see what happens. And so thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I wanted to tell you was Game for Love. It's all out there. So Game for Love is a live dating game show that I've created to bring bachelors and bachelorettes together live on stage, to where the audience is the matchmaker in the process. So if you are an eligible bachelorette, or if you know any bachelors who would be interested in applying and being a part of this game show, the casting call is open. You can go to theheartagency.com and find out all of that information. So applications are open. You want to make sure and apply. And if you're in the Midwest, come and grab a ticket. Come and see me here in Iowa. I would love to see you. So tickets are on sale. Again, you can go to theheartagency.com and grab a ticket, because they are on sale. And then the third thing that I want to tell you before we dive into today's topic is I am building a Facebook community. So of all of my single women from Single Women's Society, I would love to bring you all together in a Facebook community. So if you're listening and you want to meet the other women who also listen to this podcast and who also are a part of the Single Women's Society, please make sure and go to Facebook, and you can just type in Single Women's Society Virtual Lounge, or link is in the show notes. So what I mean by show notes is when you scroll up, you can scroll up and you can see all the little notes of the episode. The link will be there too. So come and join us. I would love to see you in there. And that is it. That is all my announcements for this episode. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of backstory about my past with my ex-husband. So my ex-husband and I have been divorced for since 2009. Final 2009 is when everything was absolutely final. It took well over a year for things to actually come together, and finally the divorce was over. And we have two kids together. So my two kids and I stayed here in Iowa, and my ex-husband remarried and moved to Illinois. And without going into such huge amounts of detail about all of this, my children don't really have much relationship with their father. He basically, when he moved, he moved out of state, and things just kind of disintegrated between him and my children. And I think that my kids are still processing this. Still, as they're getting older and older, they're still kind of going through their own struggles and their own realizations, and kind of putting those pieces together for themselves. But this past Thanksgiving, it's something that I help my children with. I help them process this. They unload about this sometimes, and it's something we don't talk about it very often, but we do talk about their relationship with their father, which is ultimately my ex-husband. And there have been times in my life where, not now, but there have been times in my life where I sat back and I said, why did I marry this person? Why did I take that road? Why did I make those decisions? Because of watching my children struggle and watch them kind of have to go through all of that processing themselves. And it can be a very slippery slope when it comes to previous relationships, whether it be an ex-husband or ex-wife, or whether it be, even ex-partners, boyfriends, girlfriends. We go back and punish ourselves by criticizing ourselves on why we made the choices that we made at that point in time. And you could probably apply this to anything, any decision that you've made in your life. And I think that when we go into that mindset of being like, why did I make those decisions? And basically going through that mindset of regretting those decisions, it's basically plucking us out of the current form now and putting us back into the past. And when we are in that mindset of thinking about that, and why did I make that decision? And why did I do that? It doesn't help you move forward. In fact, what happens is that when we have that mindset where we're constantly thinking about everything that's happened and how we didn't make the right choices and how we should have made better choices, it doesn't help our future self. It keeps us in the past. And even so much so that when we are still regretting those decisions, we're not trusting ourselves. So this can really hurt us in ways where we don't trust ourselves. So we can't trust ourselves to make decisions on future relationships. This prevents us from opening up and from being vulnerable because, again, we're not trusting ourselves to know that we can make the right decisions, right? And also when it comes to moving to the future, we will seem to self-sabotage in a way to where we will purposely date people that resemble our ex so that we can relive in hopes to maybe change and tweak that what didn't happen in the past might happen in the future. And all of this is not good. And I've had to develop my own relationship with that, meaning to be able to let go of the decisions that I made in the past. And I'm going to tell you the one secret. So maybe there is one thing to this episode. I'm going to tell you the one secret that you can do that will help you when you're in this mindset. And this is something I've actually been talking to a couple of my clients currently, because again, you can apply this method to anything in your life. Bad decisions, if you decided to go one way versus another, if you decided to date someone instead of not dating them, if you decided to break up with them and not be with them, and then maybe regret the breakup. I think that when it comes to all of these decisions in life, and we are reflecting back onto the past, the one thing that's happens over and over again is that you're not trusting you. And when you're not trusting you, you're not going to be able to make the best decisions for you because you're second guessing yourself. So that was just a whole lot of words, I feel like. And I got a little bit of a pit in my stomach because moving through an ex can be really difficult, especially if there is trauma that's involved or anything along those lines. And if you are, I feel like I have to say this to whoever needs to listen to it. If you've just recently going through a breakup, or you have gone through a breakup and you're really having a difficult time, seek out therapy first, because I think that therapy is becoming more mainstream. And do your homework when it comes to therapy. Ask people for recommendations of therapists, because I think that some people love to tell me, well, I had a bad experience. Well, yeah, you have a bad experience at this McDonald's too, and you'll have a bad experience with driving this particular car. Like, it's not just because you've had one bad experience with one person, it doesn't mean that all of those people are bad, right? So you need to do your homework, and you need to understand that in order to move through this, you need to be able to trust yourself, and you need to be able to trust yourself enough to be able to find someone and seek help to help you get through it. And this is if you're really struggling. So I'm talking about after that. I'm talking about after you've gone through that initial doing the work, figuring things out for yourself. When you have triggers that happen and reminders, and you go back into that headspace and you're like, oh man, why did I make those decisions? Here is the one secret. I want to tell you right now that the woman that you are now would not be who she is now if you made a different decision. So what I mean by that is, if you were never with that person, if you never took that job, left that job, if you didn't move out of state, if you didn't make these decisions that you've made that has led you up to this particular point right now, you would not be the woman that you are. You would be a different version of you. And to me, when I think about my relationship with my ex-husband, even though sometimes it can be difficult as I'm helping my children navigate through all of that, I don't regret it. Is it hard to have that mindset sometimes? Yes, it is. It's not easy. But when you understand that by making that decision, by marrying him, having my kids, by standing up to him and divorcing him, taught me so much about who I am, about my character, about how strong I was, about how I knew what I could stand for, what I wasn't going to stand for anymore. And then to go through all of the trials and tribulations when it came to the divorce, when it came to the children, all of those amazing growth and learning opportunities that I experienced led me to here with you. I would not be doing this work if I would have married someone else and I would have been happily married for 50 years. I would have never, okay, I'm not that old, but you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the drive and and the the feeling of I wouldn't have the drive and determination to help as many women as I possibly can, because I was you. I've been there. I went through all of that with my ex-husband, went through the divorce, and then I went through years and years of horrible, terrible, awful dating, which again, I could look back on that and back at those experiences and be like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Well, because of all of my mistakes, it's led me to the woman who I am now who can help you. So if you find yourself in a position where you're regretting the past, or you're regretting the decisions that you made, or you regretted these relationships that you were in, I want you to take a step back for a moment and celebrate yourself and be like, wait a minute. Would I be the woman that I am now if I would have made a different decision? No. And would you change anything about yourself? Now, your character is what I'm talking about. There's always things we want to change about ourselves. I get it. I get it. I'm a coach, right? I get it. I help women become the best versions of themselves. It's part of what I do so that they can have amazing dating lives. But who you are and all of the growth and all of the amazing things that you've been through, would you, and not so amazing, some horrible things, would you change any of that? I wouldn't. And I'm at peace with that. Sometimes do I get triggered as I'm helping my kids go through all this stuff? Yes, of course. Of course I do. But then I have to take a step back and go, gosh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful I went through that because it led me to you. Here, this podcast, this show. I wouldn't even have this show. I would have never opened my studio. I would have never been a single mom. I would have never, I could sit here and go on and on and on about how, because I made that one bad decision, it led me to so many amazing and great opportunities and women like you. So maybe this is the one thing. Maybe this is the one secret. Maybe this is the one thing that can help you. And it's not like everything else. And I talk about this in my coaching a lot. It's not like there's a fix for everything, right? You have to change this mindset in the long haul, and it takes practice. And still, I've been divorced since 2009, and I'm still sometimes processing it because it's not easy. But man, I wouldn't change. I would not change anything about myself. I love the woman that I've become. I love the woman who I am. And you should too. And I think too, sometimes when we have these horrible experiences, that we can get so caught in the past that we start to develop that victim mentality. Sorry, you can tell that I was saying victim and mentality at the same time. You can see that if we live in the past, we feel that we're a victim of our circumstances and we're never able to overcome them. And that stems from us not understanding our own power and what our true potential is. And that there's so many amazing good things out there waiting for us. It's just that we choose not to see them. And that's a whole nother podcast, and I'm not going to go into that. So that's my wish for you. If you're struggling, take a step back, open up your journal, and write down, what are all the things that you've learned about yourself because of that opportunity, because of that failed opportunity, maybe because of that divorce, because of that breakup, because of that job change, because you didn't take that job, you took that job instead. Whatever that regret is that you're hanging on to, write about it. And write about how much you've changed since that decision happened and how you're living your life now because of that decision. And asterisk, if you're listening to this episode and you're like, my life would have been so much better, then that's my love. That's where therapy comes into play. Okay. So I just want to make sure that you know that if you're still living in that space, that's where somebody can really help you get out of that so that you can move on to your next chapter. Because if you're stuck there, you can't move on to the next chapter by getting into another relationship, by trying to mask it with all different types of masks. You have to address that issue in order to move forward. Okay. And that's my little rough, like, mom talk, I guess, with you today. Whew. Anyway, so that's my little heart to heart. I just wanted to share that with you. It was top of mind. I was talking to Brian about it because Brian and he's such an amazing he listens to me go through all of this stuff, and we bounce this stuff back and forth. And I thought that this was something that you needed to listen to too today. So, all right, that's all I have for you today. Just focus on all of the amazingness that has come from that point and celebrate this version of you, not this fantasy version of you, but this version of you, because she's incredible and amazing. And look at all of the goodness she has and all of the things she has to offer. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, what's up? I'm wearing my cat sweater today. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and click the bell so every time there's a new episode uploaded that you are the first to know. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, thank you. I would love it if you would subscribe if you have yet to subscribe, or if you've left us a rating or a review. I would love to see those too. Thank you so much. And if you're on social media, come and follow me at Kat Cantrell on both Instagram and Facebook. And remember, Single Women's Society Virtual Lounge is out there on Facebook. So come and find us. We would love to meet you. All right. Well, thank you again for tuning in to today's episode. And remember, true love is waiting for you. And I will see you next time. All right.